Hey guys, Tish from Black Sheep Finance. Happy Sunday. Hope you've had an awesome weekend. So today, Ev's got lots of questions. Today, Ev, I'm addressing your question. If there are things that need to be done on a property that is not just cosmetic, is it okay to put an offer that is lower than asking price? Of course. You don't need any reason to put in any price you want. However, at the end of the day, it's always about competition. If you go to an open and there's 30 other people there and there's heaps of offers on the table, it doesn't matter what your reasoning is, and you put in a ridiculous offer, it means that the agent's probably not going to come back to you because they've already got other offers much higher than yours. So it's not always about the property, it's about the competition as well. So I've actually written an article previously, which is 5 tips to help you negotiate a better purchase price, which is about getting the best deal basically. So I'm going to go through some of that, and when my new website is live, I'll put the link here. So first step is get your finances in order. Like, it's pretty obvious, but it's easy to negotiate because generally when you negotiate on price or terms. So you have to have everything in order. If you don't have your finances in order, you can't meet a better term by having a shorter settlement. If you haven't got everything organised yet, it's going to be unlikely you'll be able to meet a 30-day settlement, and 30-day settlements can be attractive for sellers. So you need to have your finances in order. You don't want to have any hiccups along the way. And it's also a lot easier when negotiating and speaking to agents when you say, hey, I've got pre-approval, I'm all good to go. If you want, you can have a chat to my mortgage broker, and it just gives them a lot more confidence in your offer. So number 1, get your finances in order. Number 2, do your research. So it helps to know how long a property's been on the market. That's going to give you more buying power, basically. If you go to an open in the first week, you're not going to get a good deal because whatever you offer, particularly if it's low, they're not going to be inclined to take that because it's just been listed, so they want to see what else they can get. Whereas if the property's been on the market for, say, 3 months, you've got more buying power, more negotiation power, because they haven't been able to sell it so far. So they're going to be open to basically knowing what your offer is and what your terms are. So do your research, check out On The House. I've mentioned that website before. So you can see, what's important to know as well is last time that same property was sold. It can be really helpful if, for example, they only bought it 2 years ago. Most people who are selling within a short time frame of originally buying that house have this figure in their head, well, I bought it for $350, so I'm not going to sell for less than $350. So it helps to know how much they paid for that previously. In comparison, if someone is older, like say for example, my property I bought through a deceased estate, so they originally bought it for bugger all like decades ago. So they're not as inclined to hold out, well, particularly because it's a deceased estate, they're not as inclined to hold out for a better price because what they pay for is completely irrelevant. It's more about what they need next. So for deceased estates, it's okay, well, they need so much money to be able to get into the retirement home or for the trust or whatever the situation is. And sometimes that figure is really low. So do your research. You want to find out when it was last sold and how much they paid for it. And it also helps to ask the agent how long it's been on the market. You can find that on certain websites. There's no harm in asking. There's no reason why they shouldn't tell you. So that brings us down to step 3, which is basically get on side with the agent. Agents are people too, and they're more likely to negotiate with you if they like you. So the first thing you should be doing is calling the agent. Call the agent before you go to the property. So you can say, hey, it's Tish, just, I saw this property, and just think of some question to ask them to get them engaged. Just saw this property, just want to know if you can tell me a little bit more about, how long it's been on the market or whatever else. Like I said, they've got a pool, how old's the pool, or, is the aircon working? Just some sort of basic question. This is also an opportunity for you to gauge how good of an agent they are. Negotiating a purchase price has a lot to do with the agent, whether they're good at their job or not. Obviously, their goal is to sell the property, and they look better if they can get a better result for their client. Typically, not all agents are like that. So get the agent on side, call them, so when you actually rock up at the property, you can go, hey, I spoke to you on Tuesday or whatever, and build that rapport with them. You want to get them on side so they go into bat for you. They're going to get excited if you're a potential buyer. So get the agent on side. And if possible, try and get a private viewing. Don't wait for the open. Same with when there's auctions. Just because something's going to auction doesn't mean you can't buy it beforehand. It's actually better if you can. So always try and get a private viewing, because then obviously you're one-on-one with the agent. You're showing you're super keen, and you're going to have, I guess, more negotiating power over the competitors and other people looking. You want to try and get a private viewing. Okay, so this is my favourite question to ask agents. Is the buyer more motivated by price or terms? Is the buyer more motivated by price or terms? Ask that in that exact sentence. Every time I've asked that of an agent, they've gone, oh, that's an interesting question. Because most buyers out there, so your competition, aren't educated buyers, which means they don't know how to negotiate, they don't know what to look for. So when you ask a question like that, the agent actually stops and thinks and goes, oh, that's interesting. And more often than not, they will actually then divulge heaps of information, which is bizarre. But price or terms, you can't really negotiate on both. It's difficult to. Not everyone is motivated by price, believe it or not. Terms are attractive. So people who are, deceased estates, divorcing, moving interstate, moving overseas, people who have deadlines are going to be more attracted to terms. So if you can offer a fast settlement, then often you can go, well, okay, I can do a 30-day settlement, but that means I'm going to offer you blah. So just an example of how I negotiated this property. So, number one, the agent was useless. He listed the property for sale 2 days before leaving on an overseas holiday. So he wasn't able to show me through the property. I asked for a private inspection, so he got someone else to show me through the property at his real estate office. They didn't know anything about the property. He then wasn't available to communicate for 2 weeks because he was on a cruise boat with apparently no reception. And when I finally came to make an offer, because he was useless and wasn't able to give me the information I requested, I wanted to confirm it was deceased estate. I wanted to know about the air conditioning, salt damp, and basically I said, look, I don't want to make an offer yet because I want to get someone through to look at the salt damp, and I want to get someone through to give me a quote on the aircon, because if that's going to cost, that was an advantage of this property. It had ducted aircon, and that's an expense, it's 10 grand, so I have to pay that if it works. So I wanted to get people through to do that. It was too difficult, so I thought, I'll just make an offer, and during my calling off, I'll organise those things, and I can always bail out later if I want to. So my terms, because it was deceased estate, they were asking $350. Because of how bad he was at communication, I got the sense that no one else would have been through the property, which meant that I guess I knew I was the only buyer, if not one of the only buyers. So I didn't really have to compete against anybody else, and that's really important. So when I put my offer forward, I asked him, I was like, well, because I know it's a deceased estate, are they interested in a quick settlement? And he said, well, no, because it has to go to probate, etc., etc. And I said, okay, well, I've just sold my property, so I've got my deposit, it's guaranteed. Obviously, I'm a finance broker, so I didn't worry about finance. I still put subject to finance. You should always put subject to finance. And initially I said, I'll give you $1,000 deposit, because deposit means nothing. It's just a holding deposit. Obviously, if you don't get finance or you don't meet certain clauses, then you lose that deposit, but you can always get out with the finance clause, hence why you should always list subject to finance. Anyway, so my offer was 60 days, $340, and $1,000 deposit. After a week, I didn't push him. I didn't want to push because you can seem too eager, and then normally they counter offer. That's an agent's job, to counter offer. So whatever you want to get it at, go below, because the agent has to feel like they've done a good job, so they will feel better if they can get you up. So don't go in at your absolute maximum, always go below, because if they can get you up, they feel good about themselves, basically. So he came back to me and said, oh, yeah, it looks good, but they want more deposit. And I'm like, more deposit? That doesn't matter, though. And I didn't say that and argue. I was like, okay, well, I'm prepared because my funds had cleared from my sale. I'm prepared to give you 10 grand deposit now, but I'm firm on my price. So then I was saying, okay, well, for whatever reason you want that term, so I'll give you that term, but I'm sticking to my price. Expecting him to, go back and come back again and ask for more. And they didn't. He called me 2 days later and said, your offer's been accepted. I'm like, okay, cool, that was easy. Like, it was ridiculously easy. And whatever you offer, you can actually still change that price later, even after you've signed contracts. As an example, I made an offer on another property which had severe salt damp, like really, really bad. I was caught up in the emotion of it. I signed an offer and I thought about it later. I was like, nah, it's too big of a job. There's probably other structural things wrong. Not keen. So I called the agent and just said, hey, look, I've thought about it more and I'm gonna pull out. It's just, I'm not willing to take that risk. And he was so keen because obviously no one else wanted to buy it because it had that many issues. And he's like, oh, he basically just knocked 10 grand off the price. Would you consider it this? And I was like, no. And I think I dropped down an extra 20 and said, look, because there's so many issues, I really only consider it at this price. And he's like, oh, I'll think about it. I didn't want the property, so I made a ridiculous offer because it had so many issues. So you can always negotiate after the fact, like when you do building inspections. If the building inspection comes back with salt damp or with anything and you get quotes, you could then go back after your offer's been accepted, because ideally you need to make the offer first, so you've got the property, then you get the building inspections during your calling off, and then you can counter negotiate and go, look, because then you're threatening to pull out and they're more likely to go, well, we don't want to lose this buyer unless they've got other people lined up. So if you go back with the actual building report, because the agent will ask to see that, so you can't bullshit. So if you go back with the actual report and then a quote, so whatever it is, salt damp, or there's like a leak, or the roof's cracked, or whatever, it's a legitimate issue that the buyer is aware of that is trying to get away with it. So if you go back and go, look, it's going to cost 10 grand to fix this. So obviously you try and get you get 3 quotes, or you can't really, depends on the access, but you get as many quotes as you can, pick the highest one, submit that. You don't actually have to fix that. You're not obligated to. If you want to do it yourself, you can obviously save some money, but you're trying to negotiate further. So go, look, it's going to cost me 10 grand to fix the roof. How would the vendors feel about, coming to the party on that? And just put it back to them, see how you go. It doesn't hurt to ask, which brings me to step 5. Have I gone over step 4? Step 4 was terms. So step 5 is to book the inspection, which I've kind of just mentioned. So you absolutely should definitely get a building inspection, because then you can negotiate after the fact. So that's the 5 steps to negotiating on a purchase price. I might go over in another video what an actual offer form looks like, so you know how to complete one. If you've got any other questions, then post them below. And have a good night. Cheers, guys.